Hey there, Insider family. It's Sindy Thomas here, your career coach and strategist. The Insiders Career Club is starting their 5th season of podcasts, career podcasts. Now, most of you know that I was in talent acquisition and recruiting for many, many years. The bulk of my career was spent there. I'm going to use that background in that area to speak with my guests about their careers, and they're going to share their career paths with you, along with some of the career options that are available in that particular field. I'm also going to share trending career information with you for those particular things that are going to impact your career. So we have got an impressive slate of guests lined up for this season. So stay tuned. Coming up next is a great guest. This week's guest is Matt Drago. He's an actor living in Los Angeles, and he's best known for his role as Fabian in Somewhere in Montana, which was recently released. He has appeared in a variety of other projects, including Disney's Counting Scars, a viral video, What Would Jesus Do? The Journey Continues, Ridley Scott's Prophets of Science Fiction, and the popular audio drama podcast, No Other Way. He also has his own production company, which is currently in development on its first feature film. He knew he wanted to be an actor since he was a youngster. He's now excited about the recent release of the film Somewhere in Montana, where he plays a West Coast director in conflict with a Montana rancher opposite Graham McTavish and Michelle Hurd. Let's welcome him into the show. Hi, Matt. How are you? Welcome to the Insiders Career Club podcast.
So happy to be here, Cindy. Thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. So I think it's going to be a really good one. So my first question is, tell us what you're doing now.
Right now, I'm sitting here talking to you, but
I'm sorry.
As far as acting goes, it's another day, right? You never know what's going to happen in the life of an actor. Sometimes you get a last minute audition from an agent or a manager. You got to throw it together, right? I got an audition for an awesome Hallmark movie. He's a football player, so I love that. I'm a big football fan.
I'm a big Hallmark girl.
Yeah, Hallmark movies are great. They're feel-good movies, right? And, the ecosystem of that apparatus is pretty tight-knit. People tend to use the same actors over and over again because, again, it's people that you know, like, and trust, just like in any career path, right? So that's no different than in the acting industry. And yeah, just auditioning and working on my production company, and just proud of my wife. She's actually going to the Independent Spirit Awards tomorrow. She's a fellow at the Fellowship for Film Independent this year. She's one of the 5 writers that was selected. So a lot of stuff going on because we're working on developing our production company and getting our first feature film budgeted. So just a lot of different stuff, Cindy. It's a good, busy time, and I'm happy about it. Yeah,
sure. I'm happy for you. When things are swirling like that, you're going to land something great. So fingers crossed. And I want to find out. I want to know when you've landed that Hallmark movie so I can keep my eye out for it.
I definitely will let you know for sure.
All right. Tell us why you chose acting as a career, because it's not an easy one. And it's also not very straightforward, I think, huh?
100%. I mean, I think that all career paths have their unique challenges. I do think that, there is less of a defined path in an artistic career. And I think that's what many people see it from the outside in as harder, right? Because you don't know always what to do or how to work for it or how to progress, right? And so I think that's where a lot of that like hard nature talk comes around being an artist, right? Because a lot of it is self-created. For me, I grew up in humble beginnings in Virginia, and I knew pretty early on that it was just something that I loved to do. I loved acting and I loved storytelling. I was one of those kids that just needed my own creativity and my own imagination with my friends. And, we'd tell little stories and, just play around together in the foothills of Virginia, the Appalachian Mountains. And it just kind of sparked to me getting into local theaters as soon as I can remember. I think my first show was like just turning 4 years old. And I just wanted to be on stage. And I probably did about, over 20 local theater shows shows growing up and in high school and middle school, and any choir tour that I could be a part of, any opportunity I could to just be doing what I loved, because it really did. It inspired me from a young age. And one of my first professional gigs, I did 3 shows at a dinner theater in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And it was a great practice for me, because it, taught me the humility that goes along with the dream, right? That the dream takes work. And
Mhm.
it's a very humbling practice, because you're up on stage and then you get off stage and, you're clearing plates and refilling drinks. And so that's something that really was a great first, one of my actual first jobs. And then that night, I remember it was actually after a show. I played Little Patrick and Mame, where someone came up to me, a woman in her 70s, and she, I think I was serving her table that night, and she, just wanted to thank me. She said, thank you, Matt. Like, this role in your performance really taught me that I need to make an effort to be closer to my son. And that's, I think, even as a 14 or a 15-year-old, where I realized the tremendous impact that acting can have. And I've learned that over and over again in my career, performing for kids. I did a national tour for Junie B. Jones, the book series, and performing with kids, for kids at 9 a.m. in the morning is, you got to bring the energy. And if you
Oh,
bring it, they'll
yeah.
bring it back,
Yeah.
but it just, there's so many things that I've gleaned from this journey. And that's why I always say the journey is the destination. And this is something that from an early age, I just felt like a spark that was inside of me, and how I felt like I could leave my best impact on the world was to leave a couple good stories behind.
How wonderful. And how wonderful that it's working out for you. We all have our little bit of acting or whatever experience, in our lives, but good for you, Matt. Good on you. All right. How did your family feel about your career choice growing up, and how do they feel now? Any differences?
Not so much. I mean, I think I was always somebody that had tremendous work ethic. So it wasn't that I was, just going to sit back and relax and just kind of hope and pray that it was going to work out somehow, some way. I think, growing up, my stepfather was very work oriented. He actually lived on the Marriott Ranch property, the original Marriott property, and was the sous chef there. And his passion for food is where I found my passion for acting. And, he got me into working into restaurants early on. And again, it just was something that I felt like was something that I didn't mind doing. I actually really like, and still do, like serving tables, bartending. It was one of those things where if I could fund the dream and work for the dream. And I got a half ride into my college that I went to, Marymount Manhattan College in New York.
Okay.
And, I worked at the library to pay off the rest of it. And I'd find ways to, like, get my books on discount or whatever it is. So I was always one of those people that was very proactive about what I have had, even if it was, minimal, and making that work, whether it was me taking another job to support the dream. So, that being said, I feel like my family, they understood that I was going to be self-supportive of my career and dream. And so regardless of how they might have felt or feel even now, it didn't really affect me either way, because of the fact that I knew that I wanted this and that I was going to fight for it however I could.
You bring up a very important point, because a lot of people have a dream. It could be acting, it could be anything, really. It could be teaching, but you may not always start off in that career. And the example of your life shows that, you were willing to do whatever was necessary and be humble about it. And I don't find that that's necessarily true today. I think even some of the young people that I've worked with, a lot of them have been excellent. So I don't want to, paint them all with the same wide brush, but there were those that kind of didn't understand what work was about. They didn't have that training to understand that there's a work ethic. You come in, you do what you're supposed to do. You're not looking at TikTok. You're not shopping online, and I think that's the biggest thing that young people need to learn growing up. Especially, that's something that needs to happen somewhere, either in their home life or in their college programs, to really prepare them for the work world. Because I see a lot of articles talking about they're not ready. They're just not ready. Gen Z, Gen X, Gen Y, they're not ready. So I just want to point that out. So as people are listening, especially if it's a young person listening, to realize that you don't start off at the top. You've got to build to it. And if you actually have the chance to get in and do something that is career related, you are very fortunate because it doesn't always happen that way. Anyway, thanks.
Percent. And I'll just piggyback on that. That was beautiful. I think you have to find passion in what you do, right? And even if it's something that, maybe isn't your first choice, but you're doing it, to support your family or your loved ones, you have to find the things that you do love about it. And if you really don't love it, find something else that you do love, because life is short. And I feel like if you have that passion for something that you're doing in your life, you won't fall back on what you just talked about. So I think that was something that I wanted. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember having my fallback was office skills, typing, doing whatever, and I did that when I started out. I didn't have a job teaching right away. So yeah, that's what I went to school to be anyway. And ended up in HR. Yeah. But it's all kind of related.
Sometimes the path chooses us, right? You don't always choose it. Yeah.
All right. You kind of answered some of these questions. So talk to us about the business side of an acting career, because people only generally think about, what you're doing on stage and preparing yourself for that part. But there's a whole other part to it that supports that and makes that happen. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I mean, the reality is that you have to be self-supportive because it's an inconsistent stream of income for the most part, right? Unless you're booking like a big budget movie or a contract role in a series, you have to find ways to kind of cover your gaps. And that's unique to each person, right? I mean, some people will take on a little bit more weight. I am a licensed realtor with one of the biggest teams in Los Angeles. So, I help people buy and sell homes in the greater Los Angeles area. And it was just a decision that I made for myself that at a certain point, I just didn't want to be, a quote unquote broke actor, that I wanted to be able to support myself and buy a home. And, I have a home, right? And so I don't pay rent anymore, which is something that I felt like was very important. And kind of honestly, one of the reasons why I moved from New York to LA was the hope of being a homeowner, because it just kind of softens the blow when you're not paying somebody else's rent, especially in a big city where the rents are so high, right? So, every person has to kind of take a temperature for themselves and, say, listen, I'm okay with just picking up like, a couple bartending shifts a week and, maybe driving an Uber or being a personal trainer or what have you. But other people like me might take on a little bit more weight, like trying to have a second career and trying to balance that out. And you find ways to do that. I mean, I'll speak uniquely to me. I joined a team because it gives me the firm foundation of, getting some lead generation. It gives me the firm foundation of getting the marketing dollars that are spent by my team lead, Nate Butcher of the Nate Butcher Group in Santa Clarita at eXp Realty. And so it gives me a little bit more of a balance to be on a team. I don't foresee me as an actor ever being a solo agent myself because I want the support of the team. That's valuable for me because I'm balancing out two worlds and two career paths. So I think I always try to tell that to people that are trying to bridge the gaps is like what your pain threshold is. I mean, like if you're only taking a couple shifts a week and you're paying LA rent, yeah, you might be broke. Like you might be hurting for money, but if you're willing to take on a little bit more, it doesn't mean that you're a part-time actor. It means that you're really committed to making sure that you can be sustainable, right? And you have to find ways of do that. And sometimes you will find yourself being spread too thin. But I'll give a great example to another team that I was on at Remax when I started a few years ago back in California, and Margie Schaefer, who, like really just became a mom to me. And like really, it was just me and her. It was just a two-person dynamic. And I had 3 deals that were in escrow. as I was about to shoot this huge movie in my life and something that I'd always looked forward to. And I basically said, I really need your support right now. And she said, don't worry about it. Go shoot your film. I will close these. We'll figure it out. And for me, that was the ultimate gift. So that's kind of where the team support means so much. And when
Mhm.
she came to see my film, we just did a premiere actually a couple of weeks ago, and I gave her 2 really big hugs and we got to catch up. And it was really gratifying to me because she got to see the work that I did in the film. And a lot of that was because of her and the space that she gave me to close those deals. That way I could really focus on what I needed to focus on. So we
Okay.
find it in our own ways, but we have to be our own career coaches sometimes. We need people around us that guide us, but we also have to make our own decisions. That way we can serve our lives best. Yeah.
All right, great. How do you get an agent? Especially when well, you kind of came along with a lot in your background, but a lot of people don't do it quite that way. So how do you get an agent?
It's the classic cart before the horse, before the cart, before the horse, right? I think and honestly, this is what, to our earlier point, this is why acting to a lot of people, or really even being creative in the creative field,
Mhm,
is hard
mhm.
because there's no clear path. So I can't really
Right.
just say, like, this is how you get an agent. I can say the way that I got an agent.
You can
I
share with us.
uniquely, the reality is that you have to start self-submitting. I think that's the big first step. You get on the platforms like Actors Access or LA, New York Casting, Casting Frontier is another one. And you just start putting yourself out there. When you're starting out, you're probably a non-union actor. So you're just trying to book some stuff to get some stuff together for your reel. And then you need to make money so you can afford headshots and get somebody to edit that reel together. Or if you can do it yourself, that's great. But, acting costs money. Like, you have to be able to afford certain things. Like now I'm at the point where I'm hiring a PR rep, right? And I've got a
Right.
wonderful one that is incredible, but it's like you have to, at certain points, bet on yourself, right? And so, right. So you do that in every career. So for me, it was just getting a manager first, which managers, I always say to actors that might be listening today, are a little bit more proactive, meaning that they're kind of guiding your long-term scope of your career. And agents are a little bit more reactive, where they're literally looking at the breakdown. Sindy, you're right for this. I'm going to submit you and I'm going to pitch you because I know the casting director. So it's a
Laura.
little bit
Mhm.
more of a reaction base where, a manager might be like, hey, I really see that your positioning right now as an actor is kind of in this vein. Let's really try to push you, now that you've done this, maybe we can try to, push you a little bit more for that. So they're guiding you a little bit more. I think that when you're starting out, managers usually are a little bit more adaptable to taking on quote unquote unknown talent. And, again, I say unknown in the way that, like, I could be acting my whole life, but maybe I haven't gotten the role that has showcased my skill set, right? So that's the way that I look at it is, maybe you're unknown, but it doesn't mean that you haven't been an actor your whole life, right?
Right. Mhm.
So I tell people, build your team accordingly. It happens in different ways. For me, I found a great agent. I signed with Richard John Martin at Ignite Talent Management. He helped me get meetings for agents. He helped me get in with HRI Talent. I'm with Tanya Kleckner over there. And once you have your team of people that you feel like you align with and they're working hard for you, you stay in your lane. And that's the best part of a certain part where you get your reps, is that they deal with the business part and they want you to deal with the creative part. Like, you want to stay in your lane, they stay in their lane, right? Because they want you to get the auditions, have the clear mind to be able to bring yourself to each character, deliver a good product and audition tape.
Mhm,
So that
mhm.
way, we're all making a good impression together, right? When we're submitting ourselves. And again, that's kind of how it worked out for me. But I think that it's really just finding ways to act is really the most important thing at the end
Yeah.
of the day. Being a collaborator on set is the most important thing. Developing relationships, and I hate the word networking. Hate it. I always say I'm terrible at networking, but I'm really good at relationships. So, like, if there's somebody that I align with, like, I'm gonna have a relationship with them, and I'm gonna, like pick their brain if they know more than me. And I mean, that couldn't have been more evident in Somewhere in Montana with being on set with, I call her my big sister, like Michelle Hurd. I mean, she's just such a
Girls.
special person. She's been doing it for so long. She is just an incredible pro, but an even more incredible person. And so you glean from the relationships from people that know a little bit more from you, and then you find your path within that.
Okay. Well, since we've talked a little bit about the movie, we made some references. Why don't you tell us about your movie? It just came out.
It's a great one. So, Somewhere in Montana is a story of the times. Essentially, Brandon Smith, who's the writer and the director of the project, wrote a story where, two people from uniquely two different worlds, West Coast director meets a Montana rancher, and he puts them in an impossible situation where they need each other. I need this last location as a filmmaker because it's that perfect location. And again, this is a legacy piece for my character. So for me, it just needs to be just perfect. And his ranch really is perfect. And Michelle, or who plays Kat in the movie, my producer, which is like kind of a real life brother sister relationship in real filmmaking, because again, a lot of times the producer is the one that says like, we need to do this or we're going to lose this. Like there's timing, there's a lot of juggling that needs to do. So that relationship is so tight knit. So a lot of our relationship off screen really did translate on screen,
Nice.
which was really a beautiful thing. Same with Graham. I mean, Graham and I really have two unique, different energies. He is such a subtle, nuanced actor. And I felt Fabian big, and I didn't apologize for it. I took a risk in this film being big because I felt like he was passionate, not to be confused with the diva, somebody that would go down with his own ship, somebody that really, really would fight for his people, meaning his cast and crew. And again, like somebody that really cares more about other people than he does himself, because it's everybody's collective film, which is kind of how I feel now as a producer in my production company. And so this film really does. It dives deep into legacy with John, played by Graham, with his ranch, and Fabian with his films. And it really dives deep into respect and mutual respect. And I've always said this, I think it's the highest form of love that you can give another person is when you truly respect them. And what a beautiful story of the times that we all need right now. And this is, again, where I go back to the child in me that has always dreamed about telling stories that are bigger than myself. And Somewhere in Montana is definitely one of them.
All right, great. Now you talked about you played your role big. So how do you go about preparing for a role? Because there's so many, it's like if you watch, there's 15 productions of Jane Austen's, a particular movie. I can't even think of one right now. But, when you look at it, you go, oh, you've got your interpretation, you've got the director's interpretation, and it would create something entirely different when you see it done in different ways. So how do you prepare for your roles?
Each role is uniquely different. I was very lucky in New York City that I just took in all the training that I could, and I've always asked people like who are they're learning from, and just actors that I just admired and trusted, and just was floored by, honestly, with their talent. And a lot of people said the same thing. They said you should go see Terry Schreiber and try to get into his acting studio. And I put myself on the wait list. I think I was there for about a year and finally got into his class. He kept it small. It was 12 actors, and him. And he got some great actors their start, including Edward Norton. And I just learned so much being in his class. And I think what I learned from him specifically that I just love is what a nurturer he is of actors. And he nurtures them in the way that he will give you all the different methods of acting that you can possibly take in, and then you find your own process within that. So whether it be Stanislavski, he studied with Strasberg, or Meisner technique. I did kabuki training, which is body work and finding the character within your own body, and sometimes morphing your body to that character. I lost 25 pounds for Fabian Verdugo because I just felt like he forgot to eat meals. He was very hyper focused. He cared more about others than he cared for himself. So for me, it made me feel like I was in the instrument of that character. And I hired a nutrition coach, a fitness coach. These are people, Jennifer and Nathan DeTracy, that like told me when to eat, what to eat, when to work out, how to work out. And it was all kitchen and cardio for me because again, I wasn't lifting weights. Matt likes to lift weights. He likes to drink his protein shakes, but for Fabian, that was not the body type that I really
Mhm.
needed. So I think to answer your question, I went very method with this character because I felt like very early on I connected with him on a very deep level. I think Fabian Verdugo, actually, I know this is the first character that I've ever truly fallen in love with. Like, I really love Fabian and I love what he stands for. And I love that he's passionate and unapologetic about being passionate because life is short. And I think that there is something sometimes where people see people that are passionate as somehow self-centered or selfish, and quite the contrary with Fabian. He's fighting for something that's bigger than all of him. He's fighting for the sum of his parts, right? He really does respect his people around him. So for me, yeah, it was method and really diving deep into the character however I could.
Okay. Talk to us a little bit behind the scenes on Somewhere in Montana. What's that like?
I mean, every cast and crew is a little bit different. The cast and crew for this one, I had a feeling even as I was driving to set, because I did drive to set from LA, made a
Mm.
little kumbaya trip out of it, spent a couple days in Vegas, very Fabian, took in a show, went to go see Mad Apple, then went to Zion. And that's when I really started reflecting. I can't remember, Cindy, the last time I've hiked, and just looked at a waterfall for a half an hour. And so it really gave me a lot of reflection. But I just driving up to set, I just had this overwhelming feeling over and over and over again that this cast and crew was going to become a family. And that's exactly what happened. We were so tight, we really couldn't get enough of each other. We
Yeah,
would
that's
go on
nice.
hikes. Yeah, we would go on hikes together. We would get our breakfast together. I'd have my little breakfasts with Graham at Betty's Diner in Polson, Montana. We'd go get dinners at the Shoe and really just talk shop and really just connect with each other. And that's what made this so special to me. I mean, I always say this, but like, I feel like I've already won with this film because of the relationships I've gleaned from it and because of the experiences I've had from it. And
Hmm.
it just really does. When you see the movie, you see that like brother sister relationship that I was talking about with Michelle. You see this camaraderie with Graham. He's the first person that ever called me mate, which is a sign of Scottish camaraderie. And he said it right as he was leaving the last time that we were on set together. He got in the car and he looked back at me and he said, "I'll see you, mate." And it really meant a lot to me because it was that sign of the fact that we had both done something together that was special. We have a 10-page scene that's just the two of us, and we had long talks about not making it too precious, not making it too actory, really making it grounded, making it a conversation amongst two men, two different men, that we're trying to find a solution together, that we're trying to see each other. And I think that's really what brought just this love of this project. And again, I give all the credit in the world to the top down. I mean, Brandon Smith, writer, director, Eden Matson, the producer, and Joe Borden, they created this just incredible ecosystem where we would have time to explore Montana and be there and feel its energy. That way we could just give it right back into the film. And I remember that last day that I wrapped, I really did. I just looked around. I was thanking different people from the cast and crew. And I said, you guys made my job easy because all of that great energy that you gave me, all I had to do was repurpose it and put it right back into our film. And I really do believe that you see that when you see the finished product of this
Oh,
film.
wonderful. I haven't seen it yet. I need to see it. I want to talk about relationships because you started off by saying networking and then you said relationships. I guess a couple of things. So with regard to relationships, just in business, you hear, oh, you got a network, you got a network, you got a network. But the reason you network is to build relationships. Sometimes people just don't realize that that is the purpose of networking. You can't just go to a networking event or meet somebody at an opening or whatever and just say hi and expect them to be on your side. You really have to spend the time to get to know them, not just there, but to keep following up. And I think that's something that gets lost a little in translation because for LinkedIn, which a lot of professional people use, they reach out and they act like they know you already, and they haven't. And that's a big mistake. It's not developing your network in the right way. And so I just wanted to bring that up. And then also with working, talking about your environment and developing the relationships that you had with your co-actors, leads, directors. Relationships are so important. And I would tell either candidates that I interviewed, I also used to teach young people how to find work. So, and how I actually used to prepare them. I used to work in the not-for-profit where I would help them understand what work was and what their part was and what their manager's part was and, all of that. And so when I was speaking to them, it's like work is what's the right way to say this? Your experience of an employer. You can find the best employer. You can find they're going to do so much for you with regard to benefits. They have all of these programs and things. But if the people that you are working with are not people that you like, do not have the style of management or work that you align with, you are not going to be happy there. And, when you're interviewing, you have to do your best to vet that out. Is this going to be a situation that I'm going to be comfortable in? Is this the right manager for me? Are they going to teach me something? Are they going to correct me and not let me get too far off base or do work that isn't really quite at the excellence level? I mean, you really have to vet that stuff out. And I don't think people do enough of that just in interviewing and trying to vet out the team that they're going to be with, but they really don't do their homework. And then once they're there, they aren't building the relationships that are going to make that environment comfortable and nourishing to them. So I think, the whole thing about relationships, when you were saying, I hate networking, I hate the word, but you use it correctly, Matt. You build relationships from that. And that's the thing that is going to move your career forward if you continue to nurture those relationships. Then people will refer you. Oh, you've got a new project. You should call Matt. He'd be perfect for this. And networking is key. The last 3 or 4 jobs that I found, I didn't even interview for. People called me, and that's what it does for you. And so I just wanted to speak a little bit about that because it is very important that you do it the right way and you put the right people in your network. You think about it, and it's not what they can do for you. It's what you can do for each other.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Well, are you enjoying the journey as an artist?
I have always enjoyed the journey as an artist. I mean, it really is. It's such a gift to be able to explore, your own psyche and humanity and explore, leaving some stories behind that you feel like can make people feel and make people more in touch with their own humanity. I just really do. I'm so grateful all the time when I think about what a beautiful craft storytelling is. And we need that. We need human stories. Human stories matter, right? And from the beginning of time, right? When people were, drawing the hieroglyphics in the pyramids, right? I mean, it was about showcasing the stories that they had to tell and making sure that they lived on. So I say this all the time, like it's just something that has burned inside of me since I can remember, because it's something that I feel like was something I gravitated towards, but something that I felt honored to do at the same time. So the passion just is always there, and it's just
That's
about
great.
finding ways to do it. Yeah.
Then I have no doubt you're going to be a big, big star, and we're all going to know your name. It's the passion. Yeah. It's the passion that attracts others. That's what draws you in. So yeah, you got to be passionate about what you want to do in life.
And it's easier when you're around people that you align with. You talked about that. It's easier when like people start to see you for who they are and who you are. And I think that in many ways I've realized in, just in this film, as much as acting is my first love and it always will be, and I love acting so much, I really truly love collaborating too.
Yeah.
I love being on set and exploring the different masters of craft that are on a film set, whether it be Jason, who's gaffing that lighting shot so well in the barn, or Travis that's that's getting that sound when the monsoon's coming over the mountain and the winds are picking up, and the set designers and Kristen in making sure that everything is just so perfect in each frame. There just are so many masters of craft that I think just make it such a wonderful world to be a part of.
Wow. Sounds great. Well, Matt, I have enjoyed our time together immensely. I
Me
think
too.
that you gave us all a really wonderful idea of a career in acting, that we just didn't know about. Not really. I mean, I even, I never really thought I'd ever be an actor, but my minor in school was drama. It worked with teaching, right? You kind of have to act a little bit.
Exactly. There's acting in a lot of different things that we do.
Mhm.
And that's one thing that is the truth about acting. It really is telling the truth, but telling your unique truth through your
Mhm.
own instrument. Sometimes it's like when people say that you're acting and they mean it in a negative context, like we need to figure out a different word for that, because acting is truth. And
Yeah,
I love that you had a minor in acting, because it really does. It is a great minor to have. It's a great thing to keep in your back pocket, because a lot of times it's really just your skill set in knowing how to connect with people. And
absolutely. It
yeah,
goes along with my theory that nothing is ever lost, right?
beautiful. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, Matt, again, my pleasure to speak with you and meet with you. We talked on the phone before, but actually to see you, it's great. Thank you so much for sharing about your career and your passion.
Sindy, thank you so much for having me on your show today. This has been a really wonderful conversation.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure. Take care and best of luck in your career.
Thanks, Sindy.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye. That's a wrap. And thank you for supporting me by tuning in. Now, do you need a resume that gets noticed? Want to know how to answer those really tough interview questions and shine? Maybe it's time for you to do a career pivot. Don't worry, I can help you. Schedule a free call with me at www.insiderscareerclub.com. I'm looking forward to talking to you about it. Now, let's speak a blessing over you. Your future is unlimited and it's bright. But remember, nothing happens without your active participation. Stay positive and believe that success is looking for you. Open up and receive it. Stay in it to win it. Until next time, take care.